Hey, how are you? In this video, we will explain the story TV series Moon Knight. Moon Knight is an American television miniseries created by Jeremy Slater for the streaming service Disney Plus based on the Marvel comics featuring the character of the same name. It is the sixth television series in the Marvel Cinematic Universe MCU to be produced by Marvel Studios, sharing continuity with the films of the franchise. Slater serves as head writer with Muhammad Daib leading the directing team. Genre: action adventure, fantasy, psychological horror, superhero. Created by Jeremy Slater based on Marvel comics, starring Oscar Isaac, May Kalamavi, Karim El Hakim, F. Murray Abraham, Ethan Hawke, Anne Akinjirin, David Ganley, Khalid Abdullah, Gaspard Ulil, Antonia Salib, Fernanda Andrade, Ray Lucas, Sufia Dano, Saba Mubarak. Composer Hisham Nazi. Country of origin United States. Original language English. Number of episodes 6. Executive producers Kevin Feige, Louis D. Esposito, Victoria Alonso, Brad Winderbaum, Grant Curtis, Oscar Isaac, Muhammad Daib, Jeremy Slater. Producer Peter Cameron. Production locations Hungary, Jordan, Slovenia, Atlanta, Georgia. Running time 44 to 53 minutes. Production company Marvel Studios. Distributor Disney Platform Distribution. Release Original Network Disney Plus. Original release March 30, May 4, 2022. Related shows Marvel Cinematic Universe television series. Oscar Isaac stars as Mark Spector, Moon Knight, and Stephen Grant, Mr. Knight, two alters of a man with dissociative identity disorder (DID), with May Kalamavi, Karim El Hakim, F. Murray Abraham, Ethan Hawke, Anne Akinjirin, David Ganley, Khalid Abdullah, Gaspard Ulil, Antonia Salib, Fernanda Andrade, Ray Lucas, Sufia Dano, and Saba Mubarak also starring. The series was announced in August 2019 with Slater hired in November. Daib was hired to direct 4 episodes in October 2020 with the directing duo Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead joining in January 2021 to direct the other 2. Isaac was confirmed to star at that time and used different accents to differentiate Spector's various identities. Filming took place from April to October 2021, primarily in Budapest as well as in Jordan, Slovenia, and Atlanta, Georgia. Moon Knight premiered on March 30, 2022 and ran for 6 episodes, concluding on May 4. It is part of Phase 4 of the MCU. The series received positive reviews with particular praise for Isaac's and Hawke's performances and the darker tone compared to previous MCU series. Phase 4 of the MCU. Premise: Mark Spector, a mercenary who has dissociative identity disorder (DID), is drawn into a deadly mystery involving Egyptian gods with his multiple alters such as Stephen Grant. Episodes. Number 1. Title: The Goldfish Problem. Directed by Muhammad Daib. Written by Jeremy Slater. Original release date March 30, 2022. Stephen Grant works at the British Museum in London where he hopes to become a tour guide. Using his knowledge of ancient Egypt, after going to sleep one night, he wakes up in the Austrian Alps and witnesses a cult meeting led by Arthur Harrow, who demands a scarab Grant unknowingly has in his possession. As he attempts to escape, he has several blackouts and hears a mysterious voice in his head before waking up in his home. Grant realizes that 2 days have passed since he went to sleep. He finds a hidden phone and keycard in his apartment and receives a call from the most frequent number in the phone's call log, a woman named Leila, who addresses him as Mark. The next day at work, Grant is confronted by Harrow, who reveals that he is a servant of the Egyptian goddess Amit. Grant escapes from Harrow but is forced to remain at work that night on his own to make up for being late. Harrow summons a jackal-like creature to attack Grant, but his reflection asks to take control of their body. Grant agrees, transforming into a cloaked warrior who kills the jackal. Number 2. Summon the Suit. Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson. Michael Castellian. April 6, 2022. Grant is blamed for the damage caused by the jackal creature due to it not appearing on the museum's security cameras and is fired. He uses a keycard to access a storage locker where he finds the scarab. He speaks with his reflection, another identity in Grant's body that introduces himself as American mercenary Mark Spector, the current avatar of the Egyptian moon god Khonshu. Grant is confronted by Layla, Spector's wife, who is unaware of Grant's existence before being arrested by police officers working for Harrow. Harrow reveals that he was Khonshu's previous avatar until he chose instead to follow Amit. He explains that he wants to use the scarab to find Amit's tomb and resurrect her so she can purge humanity of evil by wiping out everyone who has or will commit evil deeds. Layla rescues Grant, but Harrow summons another jackal creature. Grant manages to summon a suit of his own to fight the jackal, but is overpowered and allows Spector to take control. Spector kills the jackal but loses the scarab to Harrow. Khonshu threatens to claim Layla as his next avatar. Inspector fails to stop Harrow. Number 3. The Friendly Type. Mohammad Daib, Bo DiMaio and Peter Cameron and Sabir Pirzada. April 13, 2022. Harrow and his followers discover the location of Amit's tomb in the Egyptian desert in Cairo. Spector and Grant both experience blockouts while tracking a lead to Harrow's location. After failing to gain information, Khonshu calls a council between his fellow Egyptian gods and their avatars to warn them of Harrow's plans, but Harrow successfully denies the accusation. Hathor's avatar, Yetzil, tells Spector to find the sarcophagus of a Medjay who knew of the location of Amit's tomb. Layla finds Spector and takes him to meet with Anton Mogart, an acquaintance who owns the sarcophagus. Harrow arrives and destroys it, forcing Spector, Grant and Layla to fight off Mogart's men and escape into the desert. Grant assembles some of the sarcophagus fragments into a star map, but it is 2000 years out of date. Khonshu uses his powers to briefly turn back the night sky to the correct night, allowing Grant and Layla to find Amit's tomb. The other gods imprison Khonshu in an Ushbati for this, leaving Grant and Spector's body without Khonshu's powers. Number 4. The Tomb. Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, Alex Meenan and Peter Cameron and Sabir Pirzada. April 20, 2022. Grant and Layla find a deserted campsite at the location of Amit's tomb, which is a maze in the shape of the Eye of Horus. They discover that some of Harrow's men have been killed by undead Egyptian priests, who then attack Grant and Layla. Layla defeats the priests but encounters Harrow, who claims that Spector was one of the mercenaries who murdered her archaeologist father Abdullah Il-Fayoli. Grant finds the tomb and discovers that Amit's last avatar was Alexander the Great. He retrieves Amit's Ushbati from inside Alexander's body. Layla angrily confronts Spector, who reveals that his partner killed Layla's father and Spector himself before Khonshu received Spector as his avatar. Harrow arrives and shoots Spector, who wakes up in a psychiatric hospital populated by people from his life. After escaping from Harrow, who appears as a therapist at the hospital, Spector finds Grant in a separate body trapped in a sarcophagus. They also see a second sarcophagus with someone else trapped inside before being greeted by a female hippopotamus-headed figure. Number 5. Asylum. Mohammad Daib, Rebecca Kirsch and Matthew Orton. April 27, 2022. The hippopotamus head woman is the Egyptian goddess Tawret, who explains that Spector and Grant are dead and the psychiatric hospital is a boat sailing through the duat, the Egyptian afterlife. She weighs their hearts on the scales of justice to determine whether they can enter the field of reeds. But the hearts are imbalanced by hidden memories that she suggests they explore together. Grant sees a memory of Spector's young brother, Randall, drowning, and Spector's mother blaming him for it, while Spector shows Grant how he became became Khonshu's avatar while on a mission with his partner Bushman, who murdered Layla's father. Spectre and Grant convince Tawert to help them return to the living world so they can stop Harrow, and she steers the boat towards the gates of Osiris. Spectre reluctantly explains that he unknowingly created Grant as a result of their mother's abuse. Grant and Spectre reconcile with each other, but their scales fail to balance and hostile spirits attack them, dragging Grant into the duat where he turns to sand. The scales balance and Spectre finds himself in the field of reeds. Number 6. Gods and Monsters. Muhammad Daib, Jeremy Slater and Peter Cameron and Sabir Pirzada. Story by Daniel Iman and Jeremy Slater. Maya for 2022. Harrow frees Amit and kills the avatars of the other Egyptian gods. Layla finds Khonshu's Ushbati and releases him. Spectre refuses to stay in the field of reeds and returns to the duat to rescue Grant. With Tawart's help, they escape through the gates of Osiris and awaken in their body. Khonshu rebonds with them, restoring their powers. Layla discovers that Amit can be reborn by multiple avatars and agrees to become the temporary avatar of Tawert. They join Spectre, Grant and Khonshu in fighting Harrow and Amit. Harrow overpowers Spectre and Grant, but they experience a blackout, during which time they somehow defeat Harrow. Spectre and Layla seal Amit in Harrow's body, imprisoning her, and Khonshu urges Spectre to execute Harrow and Amit. Spectre refuses and orders Khonshu to release him and Grant from their service. The pair find themselves in the hospital, where they reject the vision and choose to continue their new life together as heroes. In a mid-credits scene, Harrow is killed by Jake Lockley, Spectre's third alter, who is still working with Khonshu. Development. The character Mark Spectre, Moon Knight, was to be introduced in the planned second season of Blade the series before its cancellation in September 2006. A potential spin-off series for the character had also been in development. In October, Marvel Studios partnered with No Equal Entertainment to produce a separate television series featuring Moon Knight. Winter John Cooksey was hired to develop the series by 2008, but it did not move forward. James Gunn, the writer and director of Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy films, said in January 2017 that he had discussed a Moon Knight film with Marvel Studios but did not have time to work on it. He later said that he had mentioned the idea in passing to Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige and several others, but did not have a full pitch for such a film, as had been reports on his initial comments had stated. Feige confirmed in April 2018 that Moon Knight would be introduced to the Marvel Cinematic Universe (MCU). By questioned, does that mean 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? In August 2019, Marvel Studios announced at the D23 conference that a series based on Moon Knight was being developed for the streaming service Disney Plus. That November, Jeremy Slater was hired to serve as the head writer and executive producer of the series, which consists of 6 40 to 50 minutes episodes. Egyptian director Muhammad Daib was set to direct 4 episodes in October 2020, as well as executive produce the series. Marvel had approached him out of the blue to present a pitch for Moon Knight, which includes Egyptian mythology and characters that the superhero is associated with in the comics. Daib and his writer-producer wife Sarah Gohar put together a 200-page document outlining their vision for the series, which included their intention of depict Egypt and Egyptian people in a more positive way that they felt had been done in previous Hollywood productions. Daib elaborated that American films and series often used Orientalist stereotypes, such as portraying Egyptian people as exotic guides and desert wanderers who ignoring the fact that is Giza pyramids and beside Cairo. Cairo, a modern city. He wanted to portray Egyptians as normal human beings and Egypt as a normal place like modern America, while also hiring other Egyptian crew members to work on the series. He added that the series would be hard, serious, and about big topics. Like many of his previous feature films, by November 2020, director duo Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead were asked to create a pitch for the series after previously having had discussions with Marvel Studios about finding a project to work on together. They joined the series to direct the other 2 episodes in January 2021, working alongside Diab to ensure a consistent approach to the series. Marvel Studios, Paige, Louis D. Esposito, Victoria Alonso, Brad Winderbaum, and Grant Curtis also serve as executive producers along with star Oscar Isaac, with Gohar as the consulting producer and Nick Pepin as the production and development manager for the series. In February 2021, Paige said some of Marvel's series, including Moon Knight and She-Hulk Attorney at Law, were being developed with the potential to have additional seasons made. In contrast to series like WandaVision 2021, which were developed as limited events that lead into feature films instead. A year later, Isaac referred to Moon Knight as a limited series, while Diab was unsure whether the series would continue. Titles: the series' main on-end title sequence was designed by Perception. Each episode's end credits feature a new phase of the moon, starting with a recent moon in the first episode. Filming was expected to begin in March 2021 and was confirmed to be underway by the end of April in Hungary. The series was filmed under the working title God Faith, with Diab directing the first, third, and final 2 episodes, and Benson and Moorhead directing the second and fourth. Moorhead explained that he and Benson were handed the second and fourth episodes to direct, in part because of logistical reasons, but also because each of the episodes were designed to have its own voice. Thus, the first 2 episodes connect a little more closer to each other because the creatives were still figuring out the production. Then he continued that the location of the fourth episode was very much its own thing, allowing the duo to cordon off a little bit, while the final 2 episodes are their own voice from each other and from the rest of the episodes. Gregory Middleton was the cinematographer for Diab, and Andrea Droz Palermo served the role for Benson and Moorhead. Soundstage work occurred at Origo Studios in Budapest. The series was previously expected to begin filming on November 16, 2020 to last for 26 weeks, but this was postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Filming occurred at the Museum of Fine Arts in Budapest in April, which served as exteriors for London's National Gallery, and in Santander at the beginning of May. In early June, outdoor night scenes were filmed at Madák Square in Budapest. Various exterior locations in Budapest were found to stand in for London, particularly the Brixton and Soho areas. Filming also occurred in Slovenia for 1 week in Wadi Rum, Jordan, and concluded in Budapest and Jordan by the beginning of October, at which point production moved to Atlanta, Georgia. It had wrapped by October 14. Isaac said filming felt handmade, with Diab bringing local authenticity and attention to the smallest details, such as including the correct text of a prayer over a shop. Hawke was appreciative of the Egyptian Diab for leading the series, since he did not approach the series with the eyes of an American, but as someone who had grown up in the country. The production had hoped to film the series in Egypt, but were unable to, in part because of the country's political climate and censorship issues. Hollywood production had not been able to shoot in the country for some time. Post-production, Abraham joined the series later in the process and had multiple recording sessions where he was encouraged to provide different takes and ideas for the material. He came up with various vocal options, ultimately settling on the one he joined and was the best fit for the character. Cedric Nairn Smith serves as an editor on the series for the first and sixth episodes, Joan Sobel for the second and fifth episodes, and Ahmed Hafiz for the third and fourth episodes, while Sian Andrew Faden serves as the visual effects supervisor. Visual effects for the the series were created by Framestore, Image Engine, Mammal Studios, Veta FX and Zoic Studios. Release: Moon Knight debuted on Disney Plus on March 30, 2022. It consists of 6 episodes releasing weekly until May 4. A special screening occurred on March 16 at Cine Capitol in Madrid and on March 17 at the British Museum in London, with the red carpet premiere on March 22 at El Capitan Theatre in Los Angeles. It is part of Phase 4 of the MCU.